A warm welcome to sizzling Hawaii. It's an MLS special edition for you. The Pan-Pacific Championship from Aloha Stadium in Honolulu. Semi-final number 2 on the cards. From MLS, it's the two-time defending champion Houston Dynamo against Sydney FC from the A-League in Australia. Welcome back to our ESPN Classic coverage. I'm Adrian Healy along with Alan Hopkins, and they're all here to see this man, Alan. The hometown hero, Brian Ching.
He was trying to do the right thing this week and defer to David Beckham, but this is really about Brian Ching's homecoming to Hawaii, the first Hawaiian native to play in Major League Soccer. 2006 MLS Cup MVP, did not play in this year's final because of an injury. He is fit and ready to go, and he's got over 20 friends and family here to watch him play. I'm sure he's very excited about this moment in his career.
Might have to shoulder quite a load up front for Houston, because that's perhaps where the main question marks lie. He'll be partnered tonight by Chris Wondolowski.
And Wondolowski will have to prove that he can be the guy to play alongside Ching without Nate Jakwa and Joseph Iguena, who each have moved abroad. Corey Ash, a good rookie a year ago, get a chance to play. Wade Barrett in behind him. No Brian Mullen, no Brad Davis. They're both nursing injuries. Of course, Ricardo Clark, who's suspended from Major League Soccer regular season play, has been with the national team. He will be the anchor for this Houston Dynamo starting 11 as they go for 3 straight MLS Cups. No one has ever done that before.
Now, Sydney FC recently removed from the Australian playoffs, so that led to them taking part in this competition. An experienced lineup, Alan.
Yeah, Tony Popovich, 58 caps for the Australian national team. He will be a player to watch. He'll certainly be a guy that can shut down Ching up top. Should be a good battle as well. And Alex Brosk, one of the newer signings, he had 8 goals. That was 3rd most in the A-League a year ago. So it should be a very interesting team. Of course, Sydney, of all 4 teams, they're in a different place. They just finished their season. Maybe a bit more on holiday, as we were saying, in between games, more than the other clubs, as all other 3 participants in this competition are really in preseason form. So it'll be interesting to see what postseason and preseason look like in this matchup between Houston and Sydney.
Yes, that will be the X factor, won't it? Well, the weather 75 degrees, partly cloudy, as Houston embark on a long journey towards their quest for a three-peat. The two-time defending MLS champions, the first team in a decade to repeat as MLS champions since DC did it right back at the dawn of the league.
Yeah, and that's a great point. You talk about them preparing for a long season, not only in Major League Soccer, as you look at John Kosmina, the head coach for Sydney, but also the competitions they're in, Superliga, Lamar Hunt US Open Cup, CONCACAF Champions Cup, which begins in just a couple of weeks inside of March. So obviously for Houston, they know they have a full fixture list coming up. Dominic Kinnear said his priority was to make sure he had a deep roster, putting together a Hall of Fame resume as a coach. Just the 2nd coach to ever win back-to-back cups. Of course, the other, Bruce Arena, who's certainly headed to the National Soccer Hall of Fame at some point.
Dominic Kinnear taking over from Frank Yallop at San Jose. You're watching the Pan-Pacific Championship, the first ever edition of this tournament. Teams battling for a place in the final. There'll be no overtime if scores are level after 9 minutes. Straight to penalty kicks we will go, and each team allowed 5 substitutes, 2 more than normal. As the X factor Alan mentioned, how will Sydney's postseason form compare with Houston's preseason? Well, the next 90 minutes will tell us that as Houston get us underway. The Dynamo going from right to left on your screen, wearing the orange, and an early grab for Clint Bolton in goal for Sydney.
Clint Bolton's played in every match in Sydney's A-League history but 2. So you talk about a fixture in goal, you get it in Bolton.
That's Alex Brosk. As you mentioned, Alan, 8 goals in just 22 games. A fairly short season in the Australian A-League, 22 regular season games, and then the playoffs. Sydney lost in what's called the minor semi-final. They have an interesting playoff system in Australia, was a minor and a major semi-final.
When you don't have that many teams, you get creative with the competition fixture list.
It's just an 8-team league, the Australian A-League. Interesting contrast with the MLS, perhaps, but a much younger league, only 3 years old. It's one of their newer signings. He's known as Big Ben, Ben Vidic. Very tall Australian youth international. Player at the other end of his career is Pat Onstad, who's turned 40 now.
40 and going strong, and maybe made the save of his career in the MLS Cup final, denying Jeff Laurentowicz, who thought he had a goal to tie the match, but Onstad able to help preserve the comeback win for Houston. His backup, Zach Wells, was shipped away to DC United in the offseason, so Onstad maybe more than ever the #1 for Houston.
I think most of New England thought Laurentowicz had that goal as well.
Including Jeff, who I saw in the offseason hanging out with Matt Reese. He couldn't believe it. Shows you how long championship losses linger and hang with players.
So this is the second semi-final in the Pan Pacific Championship. Those of you who were with us earlier saw Gamba Osaka book a spot in the final. So these two sides doing battle for the honor of meeting the J-League side on Saturday night in the final.
No player improved as much in MLS than Stuart Holden on the ball now.
Holden's delivery is moving on in the direction of goal.
In fact, he saved all his big moments for the ESPN airwaves during the course of the year. Holden now part of the under-23 Olympic team, which, by the way, will be a favorite in Beijing. Look at their loaded roster. Of course, no one steps up in big games like big game Dwayne De Rosario. Multiple MLS Cup MVPs now.
Yes, 2 game-winning goals in MLS Cup finals, 6 years apart as well.
Yeah, 1's enough for a career. 2 put you in rarefied air.
There's been a thought with Houston a bit short up front in the striker department. Will we see Dwayne De Rosario perhaps resume his striker role? He's drifted back into midfield last year to great effect. Brian Ching, picture really the only recognizable striker.
Yep. Well, this time a year ago, Nguyen and Jakwa weren't part of Houston. Ching was the guy they were building around, but Ching's durability the last couple of years, it's come into question. National team duty as well has robbed him of valuable time. And I think Dominic Kinnear is in the same position he was a year ago. Who's going to be the consistent goal scorer? Maybe it'll be Wondolowski. Certainly going to get the first crack at it. That looks like a postseason touch right there from Sydney.
Sydney beaten by the Queensland Raw in the minor semi-final in the A-League. It's becoming first Australian representative in this new tournament, the Pan Pacific Championship. This is Richard Mulroney swinging in across, and Ching flexing those neck muscles.
Ching left the islands for, of all places, Spokane, and then Gonzaga University. Not exactly the move you expect the island boy to make, but turned out very well. First recognized by Siggy Schmidt in the LA Galaxy, went to San Jose, now in Houston.
Brief stoppage. Referee Alex Bruce, recognized on the MLS circuit. That's Mark Robertson, much travelled midfielder for Sydney. Had his trade in England and Scotland in the lower leagues.
A lot of these players went away abroad, and very much like Major League Soccer, came back once the league began. Terry McFlynn, the Northern Ireland midfielder.
Yeah, former under-21 international. 4 years with QPR in London.
Sydney in a high-profile friendly beat the LA Galaxy in November. 5-3. So they know what MLS opposition looks like, that's for sure.
This is Wade Barrett. Houston In stark contrast to LA, had defense as their strength. Last season, they conceded only 23 goals. It was 5 better than the nearest rival, Chivas, in that department.
And they only allowed 8 second-half goals the entire year. So you talk about championship defense. It's a great stat to prove it.
De Rosario's picked out Holden here. Houston building effectively. Well, Coriash, a little rush of blood to the head, perhaps. There.
That's a good point, Dominic Kinnear. We had a great conversation recently about Coriash. He said, Corey, so much physical talent out of North Carolina in the second year. He learned the hard way from playing against Brian Mullen each and every day. Brian Mullen running him ragged, making him feel like some days he didn't even want to be a pro. But toward the end of the season, Ash was a valuable contributor, mainly, according to Dominic Kinnear, because of what Brian Mullen did to him in training every day.
It's Mulroney who serves in the corner. Looking away at the near post area. Barrett thumping it high, looking for De Rosario to get underneath it. Riga heading away. Dynamo bossing most of the early traffic here. It's in stark contrast to what we saw in the first semi-final, and they were much slower out of the blocks against Gamba Osaka.
Well, the one thing about this Houston team, they know all the parts. All these players are very familiar. Not much turnover at all in the roster, so they can hit the ground running as compared to LA Galaxy. Let's look at De Rosario. Good skill again. And a shot well off, but Galaxy trying to meld players together, wearing jerseys, numbers high in the 20s and 30s. Well, this Houston team, another year really pretty much intact, although it'll be interesting to see how much Ryan Cochran's departure to San Jose affects them. Cochran ended up being a very valuable player and a big part of that stellar defense a year ago.
You mentioned some of the other departures, Nate Jaquar and Joseph Nguyen, both ending up in Austria.
What are the chances of that?
Paul Dalglish, another who's departed. Holden, or rather Stuart Holden, digging in and coming up with possession. De Rosario's little flick.
Ball by Clark.
Already you see this Houston machinery starting to click. As you said, interchangeable parts that really know where all their teammates are, who's playing what role. And now it's Sydney with a chance to shine. It's Big Ben here. Well, Santalab, in fact, it was, whose shot was beaten away by Onstad. Fine foot save from the Canadian.
And that's Big Pat Onstad's calling card, the kick save. Cosmino looking on. This is a great outside of the right foot ball. Everything but the finish that time from Santalab. Just a couple of goals a year ago, so he's not a goal scorer. Good initial cutback on Patrick Ianni. He lost his footing. Ianni will get the chance to replace Ryan Cochran in the starting 11.
Ryan Ching, the MVP of the final in 2006, the Hawaiian Superman as he's known.
Member of the 06 World Cup team, mainly because of what he brings to the table in terms of being a combative forward. Very much like Brian McBride.
Stooping low to get back comfortably there. And Ching got 7 goals last year, but he missed over a third of the campaign.
Big reason why Nate Jaquar and Joseph Nguyen were acquired is because when Ching went down, Dominic Kinnear knew he didn't have any credible strikers to get the job done.
Rooney's cross. Oh, De Rosario saw the ball get away from him, and then Clint Bolton had to deal with a back pass.
He wanted nothing to do with.
Keeper showing his nimble footwork there.
It's nice now. We have a whole generation of goalkeepers who don't know anything about picking that ball up with their hands when it gets passed to them.
The deep cross from the right. Should have been favoring that delivery early on, and it's come close to working on a couple of occasions. Dominic Neer looking for the circulation and the rotation.
Got a new 3-year deal as reward for a second straight championship. Of course, was rumored to be on his way to San Jose to get reunited with his childhood friend John Doyle, who's now the GM up there.
Second corner of the game early on in Honolulu as Houston made most of the early running. Mulrooney.
Houston starting like champions.
Picking up where they left off. Ryan Walsh it was who headed that one away for Sydney. Mulrooney down the line. Toriash, who's so quick.
Too quick sometimes. If he can learn to deliver a consistent ball with his left foot, he can be very dangerous because his pace, man for man, tough to beat him in the league.
Barrett to Clark. Wide it goes. Holden driving it in and ends up in the side netting.
His confidence has really picked up. Time in with Peter Novak and the Olympic team has helped, but being an integral part of the MLS Cup winning squad a year ago, I think did the most for him. Born in Aberdeen, but raised in Texas.
Little spell playing in England, didn't he, with Sunderland. 5 goals, 5 assists last year. Pretty good return.
And those goals and assists are usually game winners, game tying goals, big goals. He saved his best for the big opportunities. Clark looking very sharp.
Wondolowski getting involved in the build-up. It's across to Wade Barrett here. Decided not to take on the cross himself. Tried to slip it outside for Toriash, who had a better angle. Rosario closed down before he could deliver.
The Rastafarian Vegan, who saves his bets for the biggest matches.
Clark.
Mentioned Clark, that league record 9-game suspension for kicking Carlos Ruiz as hard as he could, basically. Very uncharacteristic of Ricardo, but he has to serve the time.
Oh, Ash's delivery. A floater beyond the far post. Wondolowski was in the vicinity.
And that's the ball I'm talking about. Corey Ass has to learn to hit consistently because it was a good ball.
Wondolowski.
That's where they'll miss Nate Jaqua's big body. He would have gotten to the end of that one.
Holden. The opposite flank with the corner, but it's cleared away by Ryan Walsh. Quarter of an hour into the second semi-final. It's been all Houston. A downward header from Ching, but no power behind it. He climbed high to meet the ball.
It's been one-way traffic as Houston has dominated the play. Holden, in particular, has had a bevy of touches, and there's been quality in just about all of them.
You mentioned Ricardo Clark, Alan, and that 9-game suspension meant he missed out on another championship game. Second in a row he's missed.
There's always players like that miss. Michael Ballack is another player that always seems to miss big games, finals. Games, unfortunately, you can never get back in your career.
Wade Barrett unable to keep the ball in. His 4th year back in MLS after those 2 years away in Scandinavia. was ever present last season. Houston didn't miss a game.
One of those players that migrated from San Jose to Houston when the club moved. Houston still on the block. In fact, rumored that Oscar De La Hoya and the Golden Boy Promotions had put their name in the hat to buy the franchise. So they're trying to get a new stadium downtown as well, next to Minute Maid Park, where the Astros play.
Cash up against Ian Fife. It's the Australian right back who wins that particular duel. Sydney FC in the blue, Houston in their trademark orange. 0-0 here in the second semi-final of the Pan Pacific Championship. So glad you could join us at ESPN Classic or ESPN 360 if you're watching on that platform. Another deep cross. They've really been arrowing in deliveries from either flank early on, and the Sydney defence has been a full stretch to cope.
Yeah, some of those beach training sessions they've been enjoying. Some heavy legs to start.
Di Rosario is the release valve here for Houston. Ayani across to Wade Barrett. Back at the regular season last year, Houston won 15 of their 30 games. They lost 8, they tied 7, finished 1 point behind Chivas, and then beat Dallas and Kansas City in the playoffs. This is De Rosario cannoning one off the crossbar. Well, the Canadian thumping that effort and denied by the woodwork.
The man from Scarborough, Ontario, holding great work. Dero always takes a look around him, and he rattles the bar with that rasping left-footed drive. Ching call for the handball. I mentioned Di Rosario, part of Canada's Gold Cup team a year ago.
That was certainly an inspired move to drop him back behind the front runners, wasn't it? He's taken his game seemingly to a whole different level.
But the one thing I like about Dominic Kinnear, he's always trying to reinvent himself, always having conversations about the game, how to improve his team. Not afraid to tinker. But at the same time, he keeps his core values intact, which is continuity, commitment, and discipline.
Ching trying to thread it through a non-existent gap there for Stuart Holden.
Well, the interesting thing to see is how fit Sydney is at the end of this match, because you know it takes months and months and months to get really sharp and really get game fit, and about, I don't know, 3 days of the off season hanging out on the couch to get out of shape. So it's those cruel ironies, the great machine, the human body, but that's the reality of it. Is
and mentally, having just
finished
out of the playoffs.
It's tough to gear up, even if it is just a friendly, and the palm trees and the trade winds, I'm sure, not helping.
They were so disappointed to lose to the Queensland Roar, a side they expected to beat in the minor semi-final down there.
They're hosting the finals, so it's never a good thing when you're the home team, the host team, you don't get to play in the final at home.
This is Alex Brosk deciding to try and do it all himself. 24-year-old who's broken into the Socceroos, the Australian national team picture.
Australia, of course, now part of Asia.
That's right.
So they're qualifying for World Cup 2010. Will be much more difficult. It's Ching's little side foot effort, no problem at all for Bolton, but you might want to question that move when it's all said and done. Sure, beating Vanuatu and America Samoa 33-0 doesn't help you, but boy, low barrier of entry to the World Cup is something I would never take for granted.
Well, the shots are starting to pile up. Allen 6-2 in favor of Houston. John Kosmina looking a little concerned, as well he might, the Sydney FC coach. Corey Ash giving him something more to be concerned with, perhaps, but...
Interesting thing is Pierre Labartsky, sorry, Adrian, was the head coach of Sydney. He's now coaching in the second division of Japan. He took a couple of players with them from this A-League team as he was dumped in favor of Terry Butcher, and that didn't go over well. Kosmina's come in and righted the ship for now, and the board of directors, everyone seemed to be happy with his progress, although a shocking loss in the playoff won't help.
And when he took over in October, he's the winningest coach in the first 2 years of the history of the A-League, John Kosmina, with Adelaide. He won 100 caps for his country. So Sydney FC providing the opposition tonight for the two-time MLS champions. So you can see a fairly young club, just founded in 2004, a year before the A-League began business, but they won the first edition of the A-League with a certain Dwight York on board that season.
Yeah, my son, who's not in kindergarten, is older than this franchise, which is hard to believe. One of my good friends out in LA, Anthony LaPaglia, one of the owners of this team. In fact, I saw him at the airport, and he was all excited. And his daughter and his little entourage, they were all going to come enjoy a couple of days in Hawaii. Obviously, he doesn't get a chance to see Sydney FC this close to his LA home, so he took full advantage of it.
Well, now you're name-dropping, Alan. What about your appearance in Us magazine, which I've been hearing about? I didn't read it, but my wife told me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Us Weekly, that's it. You can tell I don't read it. But
I don't read it either.
What was that all about?
Nice charity event I played in. Nomar Garciparra and Mia Hamm at a celebrity soccer challenge, and I just like being on the same team as Tony Hawk. That was almost a highlight for me. One of my kids' favorite athletes, so that got me some credibility in my own house, which is something I'm always looking for.
It's a collector's item. It needs to be framed, for sure. Sydney 0, Houston 0 is our scoreline in the second semi-final of the Pan-Pacific Championship. Alex Bruce, the man in the middle. Alex Brosk is trying to make things happen in the middle for Sydney.
That's right.
Hasn't really happened for them yet.
Alex Proust, the referee in the MLS Cup final. This is a referee 2 years ago, was put on notice, if you will. One of the men who hold the titles of running the officials. And he really raised his game last year, rewarded by getting the call the biggest match of the year.
Chance to run with the ball for Brian Ching. Attracting a crowd. He's slipped in outside to Stuart Holden. Opportunities presenting themselves, and the header down.
Ching was on again. A little ball, but the ball went over the top of him.
It's Corey Ash who drifted in and nearly connected with the cross. Houston quick to win possession back. Prodded through the middle for Wondolowski, and he was nearly there. Clint Bolton out, but
that ball had eyes on it. Seemed to get through a couple of pairs of legs. And they found Wondolowski.
De Rosario tried to prod the ball one side and go the other side. He ran into a brick wall.
He wasn't going to get to that touch anyway, so the no call, a good one. But Houston, they look very sharp defensively. This is what they do. They double team. Anytime they have a chance to clamp down on you, they will do it.
Steve Carica. And Sydney, for the most part, have been restricted to long-range attempts. That's Big Ben, as he's known. Ben Vidajic, the 20-year-old, in his first season with the club. He played a total of some 23 minutes this season, so just breaking through. But asked to lead the line tonight.
A game like this for a player like that with little experience, very important, as their new season literally began as soon as their current season finished.
This is Di Rosario. Oh, what a strike. A thunderous effort from Di Rosario. And Houston are picking up where they left off. On song and in the lead.
And in step with the hula. DDR with another patented long-range strike. After a good effort here defensively. A little pressure there by Ching. Good ball square, and Di Rosario. Oof.
That's a swerve on it, didn't it?
It had a little screen in front of Bolton. He didn't know anything about it. What a first touch, though. Prepared it. Landed on the foot he struck it with. And vintage Dwayne Di Rosario in the 27th minute.
Well, he threatened to do that just a few minutes ago. With a long-range shot that grazed the top of the crossbar. This time,
that was on his left foot. That was on his left foot. Show you what a two-footed player really does. Same sequence, opposite sides of the field, different results. It's just clear Houston want to play like champions every single time they come out. Friendly, scrimmage, doesn't matter.
This is Ricardo Clark. Thought briefly about trying his luck. Ching helping it on. Rosario for Holden, and it's 2-0. Double trouble for Sydney. Houston striking twice within a couple of minutes, and Holden enjoying the moment, and why not?
We talked about Sydney being in the postseason, hang their heads. 1 minute later, they're down 2 goals. Fortunate touch. Di Rosario doesn't strike it well, but Stuart Holden, he always somehow seems to collect these tough balls into him. And he beats Bolton at the near post by hitting it hard, and not quite, I mean, we'll call it the Aberdeen hula.
I don't think there could be a place more removed from Hawaii than Aberdeen, really. But
what a great finish. And he continues to be a bright spot for the Dynamo. And you go, how do they win without a designated player? How do they do it? Because they find guys like Stuart Holden to come in and fill a role, and you pluck guys like Jaquin and Nguyen. Tell them you believe in them, give them a system to thrive in, and they reward you with a championship. Look at Ash doubling down.
Well, this is certainly a frightening prospect for the rest of MLS, looking on at what already seems to be a well-oiled Houston machine, and this is fully 6 weeks before the season starts.
Yeah, MLS starts, I think, 38 days, season opener, and of course Houston some competitive matches in the CONCACAF Champions Cup as a curtain raiser to their competitive season.
And who do they open up against in the regular season but the Revolution?
The Revolution. You gotta love that. Schedule makers.
Someone had a sense of humor in the MLS League office there, I think.
New England, for the first time in a couple of years, starting to break up their squad. It'll be interesting to see how well Stevie Nicol and Paul Mariner rebuild after losing 3 straight cups. It's going to be tough emotionally to pick themselves up. Although they did win one of the 2 trophies on offers. They were the Open Cup champions a year ago.
Seem to be sides who are constructed so similarly. The stability, a key part. Questions of where the goals are going to come from other than their main strikers. Ching for Houston, Twellman for the Revolution. They held on to Twellman, which was a big part of their off-season.
Like Adam Crispin will be the guy to try to step up for New England. Now trying to run off a knock.
Now another opportunity. Oh, and Ching. It was almost a half-hearted stab at it from Brian Ching.
Well, you get a feeling that they're going to try to find him the rest of the match so he can get a goal. Easier to get one tonight than maybe on Saturday, as they're on their way to the final, at least as it stands now.
looking a little easy for Houston there as they just simply rolled into the Sydney penalty area. Di Rosario rolled it across for Ching. Past the half-hour mark, and Houston in total command here in this second semi-final. Of course, it's 4-team competition, and the two winners will meet in the championship game. That'll be late Saturday night on ESPN Classic, the Pan Pacific Championship, 1:30 a.m. will be Gamba Osaka against the winner of this game. Saturday night, 1:30 a.m. Eastern, live on ESPN Classic. It's looking this early stage as well as if it may well be Houston will be taking on Gamba. The other two sides will meet in the third place game.
Right now, it's going to be a matchup in LA.
That'll be a rematch, won't it?
Would be. There was a little bit of bad blood in their quote-unquote friendly back in November.
That friendly that involved a sending off.
Yeah.
And 8 goals and 80,000 people in Sydney.
I think everyone got their money's worth on that ticket. Sydney FC fully aware of the Beckham effect firsthand, as is their accounts receivable department as well.
Sydney have worked it forward. That's Ryan Walsh, a disappointing final product.
He looked like a tired touch right there, even though we've only played a half an hour.
He was a very late addition to the Sydney squad, who were a little short on numbers. Perhaps the most recognizable figure in the Sydney FC squad is Juninho, the Brazilian, but he was injured in that semi-final defeat we mentioned. Couldn't travel to Hawaii.
We were talking earlier. He is looking to move to MLS. He's already contacted a couple of clubs in hopes of maybe coming to the States. Remember the 02 World Cup winning team, and he was Juninho Paulista. Of course, the other is Juninho Pernambucano, I think the one everyone thinks of right now at Lyon, but Juninho Paulista had a pretty good career, to say the least.
Mulrooney floating in the free kick. It was Moreno who was underneath it. Sydney struggling to get this one away. They finally manage it. Tracking back was Ayani. And then Barrett just bundled over.
Barrett, incredible work rate. One of those guys who refuses to be beaten and refuses to lose. The heart and soul of this team, no doubt. Wearing the captain's armband.
Stuart Holden, one of Houston's goal scorers tonight.
He's been on fire.
Quick, clever give and go as well, looking for De Rosario.
That's the confidence we didn't see in him a year ago. But saw him really in front of our own eyes. Going to be, looks like now to be a first choice player for the defending champs.
Corica working his way back.
I'd say this, both teams doing better with the surface than the first game. Gamba did have some success. The Galaxy struggled all night. The ball tonight in the second game staying on the floor.
It's more of an up-tempo affair, certainly the second semi-final. Wondolowski, 16 appearances, just 3 starts for Houston last year. Wondolowski, his 3rd year out of Chico State, California.
Pretty much in the state of California, every program has got a player that is ready to take it to the next level. We talked about Cal State Northridge and Sean Franklin, LA Galaxy. Cal State Bakersfield represented Chico State. Of course, all the UC schools. UCLA had 2 of the top 3 players selected in this past MLS Super Draft. Tony Beltran and Chance Myers, who went first overall with Kansas City.
Well, talking of the Golden State, how big is it to have San Jose back in the league, back where they belong? Obviously, the original Houston franchise.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see, because one of the best rivalries over the years was San Jose and LA, who we'll see in our opening weekend of matches on ESPN. That should be very interesting. The San Jose fans have always hated the LA Galaxy. Of course, Dodgers and Giants, anything NorCal and SoCal always will produce a rivalry.
This is Santalab looking really menacing as he worked his way into a shooting position. Santalab, who spent a year in Hungary and a couple in Belgium.
I believe it was that Waterloo in Belgium. Pretty good Belgian club. First corner of the match taken by McFlynn for Sydney.
Chance perhaps to look for Big Ben, who's standing right in front of Pat Onstad. The flick on was a dangerous one and found its way to Santalab. Couldn't keep his header down.
He was lurking at the back post. The flick came on at the near. Onstad was unable to get it as it came out.
Ryan Ching back in Hawaii, and his side Houston scoring twice in the space of 60 seconds. Dwayne De Rosario with an absolute thunderbolt opening the scoring. Ty Holden, or rather Stuart Holden, from much closer range, adding a second. And really the defending MLS champions looking very comfortable and in total control.
He really did want to come out and take care of business, and that's what they've done. And a couple of preseason scrimmages they played in the Bay Area on their way out here to Hawaii. And it's really for all of MLS, the preseason is spent away from HQ, particularly for the cold weather cities, but even the LA Galaxy pretty much hit the road. The only team I can think of that isn't going anywhere is Chivas. They're just going to stay in the sunny confines of LA. Of course, a lot of teams do make their way out to California. In fact, a few teams will be playing in Oxnard toward the end of this month in early March. Oxnard, California, I should mention.
Corey Ash using that pace and trickery again. But Brendan Renault able just to guide that back to goalkeeper Clint Bolton.
Mulroney, good job of breaking up that tackle.
Sydney just starting to break out of their shell a little. So we get into the last few minutes of the first half. Must have been shell shocked by the start that Houston put together. Renault looking for Corriga. Corriga, the attacking midfield playmaker, wearing number 10 for Sydney. Hugely experienced. 8 years playing professionally in England. Ian Fife. Popovich combining at the back. This is almost the longest spell of possession the Australian side have enjoyed so far, even if it is in their own half.
I guess that would be the one caveat.
Fairly big one. Enrico, who played for Leicester and Wolves and Walsall. So
he was on Wolves when they had a little run a few years ago. Seems like a lot longer ago.
This is Ricardo Clark looking menacing. Going for the side foot placement with the shot from some distance out. Alex Brosk.
Brosk has been solid. Good touches on the ball. He's been the one danger man.
And Sydney earned themselves a lifeline here before the break. That was a decent half chance for Terry McFlynn. Decided to take the shot early. Cosmina looking on, but McFlynn, the former Northern Ireland under-21 international, is some way off the mark. Sydney starting to close the gap in terms of attempts on goal. And still Houston comfortably in control.
We have the 2 goals to prove it, but defensively they've been airtight. They look sharp on the ball. We've seen some 1-2s, some long-range strikes, a little bit of everything from the defending 2-time MLS Cup champions.
He's found his way through to Ching now. Wondolowski! Oh, super stuff from Houston. Sydney ripped to shreds there. And Wondolowski with a splendid finish. You just have to sit back and admire the efficiency of this Houston team.
Putting on a clinic. What a neat sequence this is. The dummy. Ching, nice, well-weighted pass. And then you just hit it hard, keep it on target. Bolton off his line. Knew he was beaten. Popovich nowhere near Wondolowski, and great opportunity for him to show he's a first-choice striker, and a goal like that I think translates pretty well into the regular season.
All the questions for Houston have been, where are the goals going to come from? They are certainly answering those questions.
And maybe that's how it'll be for this team currently constructed. No one really leading the way, 6-7 goals leading the way, but maybe at the end of the year you got half a dozen or more guys who scored 5 goals or more that can get it done.
Terry McFlynn standing over this. Deflection took some of the sting out of the delivery. Brosk's header was comfortable for Onstad. To the final minute of the half we go. Close to perfect 45 minutes really for Dominic Kinnear's side.
Yeah, he doesn't have too much to say to his team other than my expectations are we put the same performance on the second half in terms of work rate. Get a foul here just on the edge.
Well, there may be a further flourish in this final minute of the half. Di Rosario earning a free kick for his side. Couldn't be any closer to the penalty area without being in it.
Yeah, Houston's not going to concede too many 3-goal leads, but this one would certainly put it into the academic category. They really get a 4th here right at halftime. Maybe a chance for Houston to play a lot of guys, use all their substitutions.
Di Rosario.
Houston always tinkering on the set pieces on the training ground.
Well, picture perfect for the defending MLS Cup champion Houston Dynamo. 45 minutes of football that has left Sydney FC trailing in the dust. They lead by 3-0 here. Coming up at halftime, we'll take a look at semi-final number 1. LA Galaxy against Gamba Osaka. We'll also look back at the top MLS goals of the year. And of course, we'll look back at the first half highlights. And there are plenty of them from a Houston perspective. It's the Dynamo 3, Sydney FC 0 here in Honolulu. You're watching this MLS special edition, the Pan Pacific Championship.
See, when people think of Geico, right, they think of car insurance. And, of course, saving money. But sometimes that can lead even the savviest driver astray. Take, for example, the motorcycle owner. He calls Geico wanted to save money on his car insurance, only to realise that he doesn't actually own a car. Well, needless to say, he's quite embarrassed, isn't he? Doesn't matter. Geico insures motorcycles and ATVs as well. That way, no one ends up looking foolish.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Do you think that we, as the Coke brand, would have a case against the Coke Zero brand for taste infringement?
What's your specialty?
I am in real estate law.
Perfect.
Perfect. Let's say this is a property, an architectural. It's been it's made a landmark. Next door, somebody buys the lot. They build an eerily similar house. What can we do there? Let's put on the lawyer pants and walk down that path.
Da, 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 da. Sunday, the greatest black athletes make history in ESPN Classic's Weekend Marathon. Every weekend, ESPN Classic goes to the extreme. With a full day of classic sports action, from Rough Riders and heavy hitters to shooting stars and classic showdowns. This weekend, meet the sports legends who broke barriers and beat the odds. The Black History Month Weekend Marathon, starting Sunday, 12:30 on ESPN Classic. Brought to you by Verizon Wireless.
Retailers don't want you to see the information about to be disclosed.
Hi, I'm Tony Galata. This is my wife, Carrie Galata. This is our house, my wife's dream house. And we furnish most everything in this house with products from Direct Buy. We purchased the breakfast table and chairs. We looked at that table in some other places.
They ran around $3,500, and we picked it up for around $1,500.
If you're building, remodeling, or simply redecorating a room, there's now a way to buy virtually everything you need at prices you never imagined possible.
We've saved, I think, well over $20,000.
Just on our kitchen alone, we saved almost $10,000.
It adds up to about a $30,000 to $40,000 savings overall.
Call the number on your screen now to receive your free insider's guide to buying direct. Plus, you'll also receive a free visitor's pass for an exclusive tour of your local Direct Buy showroom. Call right now to get started buying the Direct Buy way. Stop paying retail and become part of Direct Buy, the private members-only showroom and design center. Don't wait another minute. Pick up the phone and call now.
It's an MLS special edition, the Pan Pacific Championship from Aloha Stadium in Honolulu. Welcome back. Full moon. It's supposed to be a lunar eclipse tonight, but no sign of it so far in the Hawaiian Islands. Sydney have been eclipsed by Houston in the first half. 3-0. A triple salvo by the defending MLS champions. Let's take you back to the first semi-final. David Beckham back in town, and his LA Galaxy side taking on Gamba Osaka, and it was a nasty beginning to the game for LA.
It really was. All the damage done in the third minute. Barre with a clinical finish on a nice ball through. And really, it was all Gamba in the first half. Second half, though, the Galaxy started getting into it. Big reason why. David Beckham started to play angry. Minero with a little bit of a dodgy little touch there. Excuse me, Lucas. And then Beckham having some words. Talking about where they're going to go after the game in Hawaii. Beckham did well defensively. This is probably the best chance of the match. Shot in the end, well off target by McDonald. But if you get David Beckham playing this hard, this late, obviously it's a good sign that he is healthy, fit, and raring to go. But it's Gamba who move on at the expense of David Beckham in the Galaxy. But wins are tough for him to come by in a Galaxy jersey as Gamba advanced to the first Pan Pacific Championship final.
Yes, that early goal from Barre, just 3 minutes in, was enough. When we come back, we'll recap some of the Houston Dynamo's exploits over the last couple of seasons. You can see the Pan Pacific Championship, Gamba Osaka against either Houston or Sydney. That will be Sunday morning, very early in the morning, 1:30 a.m. As I said, Houston will be our focus when we return. We'll also recap some of the MLS goals of the year from last season.
The hotter the hot, the colder the cold, the greater the demand, the more you need Duralast. Batteries built to exceed the need. Built to last. Only at AutoZone.
Drink responsibly. Get home safely. Guinness. It's alive inside.
They say a man should always dress for the job he wants. So why am I dressed up like a pirate in this restaurant? It's all because some hacker stole my identity. Now I'm in here every evening serving chowder and iced tea. Should have gone to freecreditreport.com. I could have seen this coming at me like an atom bomb. They monitor your credit and send you email alerts, so you don't end up selling fish to tourists in t-shirts.
Offer applies with enrollment and Triple Advantage.
So he's going away with Avis. Again. He'll probably get the where-to GPS so he can find all his precious fancy coffees and driving ranges on his business trip. Fine. That's the way he wants it? Fine. Forget about him. You don't need him. Did he just look back? I think he looked back.
Where-to GPS can find anything from a driving range to a latte. Just one more reason Avis is your other car.
Honey, are you going to keep that thing above your head the whole vacation?
Yeah. I booked our package on Orbitz. I got this great hotel. Saved a ton.
Well, you're embarrassing me. When I get back from aerobics, I'd like it gone.
The Orbitz Winter Getaway Sale. Save up to 40% on your trip, plus $75 more on top destinations. Save now at Orbitz.com.
If you have diabetes, then you know what this is. It's your lifeline. Luckily for us, these new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is, you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Access Diabetic Supply will send you one of these new meters, no charge. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Call Access now to see if you qualify.
Call 800-392-0404.
And welcome back to Honolulu and the Aloha Stadium for this MLS Special Edition, the Pan Pacific Championship. Watching the second semi-final featuring Houston Dynamo, the two-time champion Houston Dynamo, looking back to 2006, and Brian Ching doing the business. He missed penalty kick as well from Jay Heaps, and that same story a year later.
Yeah, twice coming from behind to beat New England. As Houston now in uncharted territory, trying to become the first three-time MLS Cup winner in league history, and they did it with a team, and that's how you get it done.
Well, they're well on their way to booking a spot in the final here at the Pan Pacific Championship, because they have handed Sydney a real schooling in the first half here. They lead by 3-0 after 45 minutes. Some real crackers amongst them. Talking of cracking goals, let's take you back to 2007 and recap some of the top MLS goals of the year.
Chris Bro! Oh, what a goal from Bro! Sealy. He will try it. Sealy, what a goal off the free kick.
Oh, what a move by Iguana. Avoids curtain. Avoids the keeper. Finds net. What a goal!
Oh, my Lord.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Joseph.
Ralph Chuck. Oh, what a goal! Chris Ralph has hit an absolute bomb. Blanco, he'll have a go. His left foot, what a goal! Golazo by Quintana Blanco. 2 seconds of brilliance. There he goes on. Dicchio, he's done it! Oh, Danny Dicchio! That's why they love him.
Zavagnin! Gary Zavagnin, that's spectacular! And we're level at 1.
Angel. Played it across, and he scores another! He has just set a New York Red Bulls record, goals in 6 straight games.
Here's Bondi, left-footed shot, and in! What a strike by Bondi!
See Parker's there trying to catch the keeper off his line. Oh my goodness! Michael Parkhurst from downtown Toronto! A Are you kidding me? First ever career goal from 60 yards.
Well, that's certainly something to whet your appetite, isn't it? Makes me want to see some MLS football. Well, you don't have to wait too long because April the 3rd is opening night here on ESPN. Our MLS primetime Thursday returning with 12-1 against Blanco, the Revolution against the Fire. Then it's San Jose. All eyes on Frank Yallop as Los Angeles travel up the coast. It's the West Coast derby with the Earthquakes back in the league. Well, Brian Ching, the hometown hero, the Hawaiian superstar, very much the focus here tonight as he returns to the land where he grew up for the first time to play. His Houston Tide leading by 3-0.
Until now, guys that sweat a lot had to have a backup plan. Now there's a better plan. New Gillette Clinical Strength Antiperspirant. Powerful wetness protection. 34% better than a prescription product. A lot more confidence.
Hey, Jason, you got that report, right?
You bet.
There's something different about you. Did you get a haircut?
Gillette Clinical Strength Antiperspirant. Change your life, not your shirt.
I'm comfortable in my new ride. I'm comfortable in my new number. I'm comfortable in Wrangler.
Get comfortable with great-looking jeans, shirts, and shorts from Wrangler Jeans Company. A new generation of Wrangler. New fits, new styles, great comfort. Wrangler Jeans Company. A new generation of Wrangler.
Inside those headphones is something familiar, a battery. And if you think all batteries are the same, consider this. When even the firefighters have to get out, fire departments all over the world now depend on the T-Pass 3 communicator. And packed inside is the only battery T-Pass trusts, Duracell. So whether it's music to your ears or the signal that could save you, it just has to work. Duracell, trusted everywhere.
What's up, everyone? Pete here, and welcome to Blue Hippo, where anyone can get a brand new, brand name computer regardless of their credit. Take a look at this. You can send emails, download music and video, even organize your finances. This is a fully loaded desktop computer. Let's take a call. Hello, caller?
Yeah, hi. I have really bad credit, and I've been turned down before. Can you really help me get a computer?
Do you have an active checking account and a home phone number?
Yes, I do.
Well, that's all you need. So whether you want a desktop or you prefer the convenience of a laptop, you can get either one regardless of your credit. And if you order now, we'll send you a free color printer and a free flat screen TV so you can watch your favorite shows and movies and print and email digital photos. So to be clear, when you order today, you can get your choice of a brand new desktop or laptop with tons of great software, plus a free color printer and a free LCD TV. And remember, there is no credit check and your approval is guaranteed. But you must call Blue Hippo now.
Well, a warm welcome back to the Aloha Stadium in Honolulu, venue for this MLS Special Edition, the Pan Pacific Championship, as we prepare for the start of the second half. And, well, quite an act to follow for Houston, the MLS defending champions, the two-time champs. They've really put one on Sydney in the first half. Alan Hopkins at 3-0, and it could even have been more.
Could have been more, but a very impressive opening 45 minutes. And the beautiful game is so simple sometimes. All these goals born out of simplicity. Good defending here by Ching. Gets his head up, finds Di Rosario, takes a touch, smacks it home past Bolton again. More simplicity. Ching gets it out wide. Di Rosario, his shot scuffed. Holden bangs it in past Bolton at the near post, and Sydney defense hanging their heads as 2 goals in 2 minutes, not exactly what they came to do. Again, another ball through Ching. He hasn't scored, but he's been involved in all the plays. Wondolowski, that's how you get it done. And Hawaii treating Houston very well. They're hanging loose. And right now, on top 3-0.
So Sydney must be shell-shocked. You wonder what was the tone of John Cosmina's halftime team talk. He said they were coming here to play. They were coming here to compete. They wanted to get their name on a trophy.
I wonder if he was telling himself that and getting his team to buy into it. We mentioned they're just coming into this tournament, this championship, on the heels of getting knocked out of their postseason. So got to shake that hangover away. Did make one change. Ivan Nesaveski is in for Bolton. I'm sure he would like to improve on those 3 goals that Sydney gave up in the first half. Houston is Adrian Minson, the best defensive team in the league by far a year ago. And I don't care if it's a friendly or orange and white scrimmage, whatever it is, defense Dominic Kinnear's priority.
Bolton could hardly be faulted for any of the 3 goals Houston scored in the first half, but Nesaveski will be between the sticks in the second half. Nesaveski, who's played with the Newcastle Jets and the New Zealand Knights his first year with Sydney.
Been a few New Zealanders to play in MLS. Simon Elliott, Duncan Naughton, Ryan Nelson, who's done very well at Blackburn, but Australian's a different story.
I haven't seen too many Socceroos play their trade in MLS with a 12-year history. Struggling to come up with any, actually.
I don't think there's been any that have played. Double teaming by Wondolowski.
Chris Wondolowski, whose brother is also part of this Houston setup. Stephen Wondolowski, who's a defender.
Yeah, sometimes you get 2 Smiths on the same team, 2 Johnsons, but safe to say 2 Wondolowskis. They are related.
Run into that one before.
Steve 22 and Chris 24. One the forward, one a defender makes good in the backyard. Got one guy trying to score, another guy trying to stop you.
Need a third to go and get the ball over the fence.
That's right. I think that's where Mom came in. Tell you what, it takes a village to raise a soccer family these days.
There's Wondolowski, but Brendan Renault putting his tackle in. Doesn't appear as though Houston are about to
oof, that was late.
Take their foot off the pedal, but Stuart Holden, who was fouled, awkward challenge. And
it's that fine line balance you have to really work hard to find and maintain during the preseason. You're up 3 goals, you got a rhythm, but you also want to come out of this competition healthy. No worse for wear. So Dominic Kinnear telling Stewart he's a young man. He'll be okay, but that was Chris right to give a yellow card there, clearly a foul.
Brenton Santalab probably his frustrations get the better of him there. And, it's a yellow card for his trouble as Noel Rooney swings in the free kick. Will be retrieved on the far side. Di Rosario. It's Fife for company. Ian Fife, loyal servant to the Sydney club. He was the first to appear 50 times for them in the Australian A-League. Confirmation of the booking to Santalab.
Clark closes so much ground.
Clark pushing on. There was Wolofsky, who was all alone just beyond the far post. Sydney defence seemed to have forgotten all about it.
Forget at their own peril. He's already scored once. Rosario holding to Wondolowski. The goal scores. Damage done in the 27th and 28th minute when Di Rosario and Holden scored. Really put the match in the hands of Houston. Ching trying to get a goal in front of the hometown fans. Tried to dig into the extra ticket allotment to get 22 friends and family here.
His exploits have always been followed closely in Hawaii. And Ching has made such a name for himself on the mainland.
And he's actually been doing some work with Gonzaga University on some fundraising as well for a new soccer complex. So right now, everyone trying to dip into the equity Brian Ching has as a professional soccer player. And one of the good guys in the league, to say the least. He doesn't look it, but he is thick when you're up close. You don't realize how big he is. Not the prettiest, but always been effective, pretty efficient.
This is Renault. For Brosk making the progress, and decent cross too. Renault picking up the pieces, and the strike. Got some meat behind the shots, and right into the breadbasket for Pat Onstad.
Pat Onstad always looks the same. Whether he's picking the ball out of the back of the net or making a save like that, he never wavers. Not one of those goalkeepers who'll turn and yell at anyone. Just keeps playing the game.
And he's coming off the back of the best defensive season ever recorded.
I know.
In Major League Soccer. His goals against average 0.82. Longest shutout streak ever as part of that season.
18 years older than Patrick Ianni, who's playing in front of him. Just 22. As my dad would say, I've got shoes older than him.
Holden's throw. It's it back. We're ready to go down in the corner flag.
Very little room down there in the corner.
Mulrooney, oh, he was caught as he delivered the cross. But
of those. Alex Pruss played the advantage briefly. See if the cross is going to be meaningful.
Mulrooney with a chance to deliver after all. It's time for the dead ball.
Mulrooney takes the lion's share of these set pieces. He's traded from FC Dallas to Toronto. Houston snatched him pretty early last season.
He played just 2 games for Toronto, didn't he? This is falling for Di Rosario.
And was very upset when he was traded from Dallas. He went there initially to be closer to his family. In fact, his father passed away soon thereafter, and just 2 games in Toronto. Houston snatched him up at a crucial time, and really give Dominic Kinnear a lot of credit in the GM role of making the moves that he made in Guenya, Jakwa, Mulrooney. Developing Stuart Holden. And give him credit as well. Not just managing the first team, but building a team.
Mulrooney, a former comeback player of the year as well. MLS in 2006 after all those knee ligament problems he had.
We had Chris Klein in the opener as well. 2-time winner of the comeback player of the year from coming back from 2 ACL surgeries. It's an award that you want to win, but you don't want to win at the same time. You'd certainly rather win it coming back from an injury than coming back from a poor season.
Barrett just gently back to Onstad.
Again, defensively.
Di Rosario with a surging run through the middle. Just nicked away from him.
He was trying to get it out wide to the right.
And that's what he brings to Houston in that position.
And that's why they may be able to mask the inexperience up top because of players like Di Rosario who can get forward from a deep lying position. The only thing I would say against putting D-Ro up top is that he's so good running at defenders. You put him up top, he's going to have to play more with his back to goal. He can do it, but he is so effective making defenders backpedal.
Rosario losing out to McFlynn. McFlynn again. Sydney looking for some sort of foothold in the game. Mark Robertson.
Technically, they've been pretty good tonight.
Renault's cross. Well, that's about as dangerous a service as we've seen from Sydney.
That's how you beat Pat Onstad. Anything with air underneath it, he's going to gobble up. But drive it. Now he's got to stay at home. In fact, he didn't know what was behind him initially. Watch him turn his back to where the ball came from. Luckily, Houston had it well sealed off defensively.
Brendan Renault, not the starting left back for Sydney. He played just 6 times. The season just ended. The Australians on the attack, but Alex Bross can't get there.
Houston sat back deeper in this half, allowed some more time on the ball. Sydney playing much more direct, but defensively, Houston has not bent whatsoever.
De Rosario perhaps just feeling a hamstring there.
Yep. He'll come off straight away.
Chances taken by Dominic Kinnear.
Brad Davis will come on. Brad Davis, big part in that MLS Cup game. Victory against New England. She was in the U.S. men's national team camp early in the year. Suffered a bit of a groin injury. Slow to start preseason with Houston, but now is back to nearly full fitness. Well, I'm sorry, that's Flourish under Kinnear's guidance.
De Rosario will apply the ice, I'm sure, and nearly an hour gone in this game. Start to look forward to the final on Saturday. It would take a major collapse for that not to be the case for Houston.
It'd be the sort of collapse that gets you up at 6 a.m. to train the next day, despite the late night.
If you have to get up at 6 a.m. anywhere in the world, this isn't a bad place to do it.
No, it isn't.
Clark closing down on Vidage. There you see the ice being applied.
Left hamstring. Hopefully he just felt it and then decided to walk off. Didn't show any signs really of struggling prior to that. So I like to think that he caught it real early. Ash wins it and then is taken out in the process.
There's no holds bar that challenge. Corey Ash and another booking too.
Ash stayed down to get the yellow, but he's one of those guys, as quickly as he goes down, he likes to get back up.
There's Ryan Walsh, who was the culprit here. Wasn't about to pull out, was he?
No. Ash only knows one speed. It was a hard challenge. Walsh into the books. And Ash will see him trying to collect his wind. Might as well stay down at this point. So this is not exactly how the second half would go for Dominic Kinnear. He's already seen Stuart Holden taken out late. Dwayne De Rosario come off with a left hamstring injury, and see Ash now, the stretcher coming out to get him. I think he'll be okay.
Ash, who registered 4 assists in 22 appearances last year.
21 years of age. He is the youngest player on the roster. Pat Onstad might have some kids as old as Corey Ash.
I hope you're enjoying coverage of this Pan Pacific Championship. It's the AH team in the booth, Adrian Healy, Alan Hopkins. And Houston, the team in command. It's an offside flag on Wondolowski.
We've seen 2 dominating first half performances separate the teams here. We saw Gamba really get off to a stellar start against LA Galaxy. They never recovered, the Galaxy, and their 1-0 loss. And then Houston just exploded the last 15 minutes and a half for 3 goals. And a tremendous first half performance, and really just taking care of business here in the second half. Frustrating Sydney to no end.
And I think with the evidence of that, now as the challenge is starting to fly in with a little more relish now from Sydney.
Good point. A couple cards to prove it.
Frustrations bubbling to the surface for the Australians. A nasty sandwich there involving Brendan Santalab.
And that was a good reason to do yoga right there. You had to be flexible or you would have hurt yourself. The Santalab went down and then was bent backwards.
A set piece situation for Sydney to chew on here. They haven't had much in terms of free kicks. Brendan Renault will put his left foot to work here. Try and give Pat Almstad something to worry about. Easy pickings in the end for Onstad. Renault rather isolated on the near side.
He almost got Holden there from behind.
A good example of that team work ethic that just exudes throughout this Houston side.
Not flashy. They just get W's, and that's what it's really all about.
So double switch is on hand, and one for Houston as well, it appears, as Brian Ching is making his way off, and had a generous reception from the Hawaiian crowds. It's going to be Jeff Cameron who comes on in his place. Third round selection in the Super Draft from the University of Rhode Island. The switches as well for Sydney. To tell you about, Vidic has taken a seat.
And you think about how draft day means so much for all professional athletes, but when the defending champions call your name, it says a lot about who you are as a player. Brian Ching with a great reception when he came off. His day is done. It was all in those 3 goals Houston scored, but didn't get one himself.
It's Robertson standing over this free kick for Sydney now. And Onstad urging his defenders out a little. It's floated in towards Popovic.
It's the only time you hear Pat Onstad say something. It was that time midfield marking wasn't up to his liking. Of course, he's got young Patrick Ianni in front of him, so he's going to have to raise him along the way. Ching. You can see the Hawaiian Islands on that right shoulder. Just in case he forgot where he's from.
I've forgotten a few times while he was up there in Gonzaga.
I tell you, I'm sure he remembered in February.
It's, best of clearances from Lisevsky, but he got away with it.
He was not prepared at all. The way he shaped his body to receive that back pass and nearly gave it away.
20 minutes gone in the second half of this second semi-final. It was a high-octane display by Houston in the first half. It's dropped off a little in the second, perhaps to be expected. This is pre-season after all. They're comfortably in the driver's seat at 3-0.
Yeah, where the sharpness looks like preseason. Pretty impressed with the fitness level so far of all these teams. Even particularly Sydney, who have been on holiday the last couple of weeks.
Now Renault. Can he serve up this time to trouble Onstad? There's some heavy artillery in there to aim for, including Santalab. It's beyond the far post, but good jump.
It was Adam Biddle, I think, that time.
Yep.
Came on. 5 substitutions, including a goalkeeper. And Sydney have listed just 5. Can list up to 7. Ching getting treatment on that right knee. Rosario, those two, the principals of the Houston attack. Quite a few rings between the two of them.
Certainly of all the sides in the 4-team competition, it was Sydney FC who were perhaps struggling in terms of a full complement. Their squad had some injuries and some niggles to deal with at the end of their domestic campaign. A couple of other players rested because of forthcoming Olympic qualifying commitments for the Socceroos. This is the other substitute, Satalios, making his way forward. He's a player of note for Sydney. There's the number 3. He's the youngest ever A-League debutant last season. Sat up there for Mark Robinson. Swing of the leg and the ball sailing harmlessly. Side to Pat Onstad.
Talk about Satalios. He was born in 1990.
17 years and 225 days he was when he made his debut in October.
He won't be 18 until March 1st, so he's getting a head start on what could be a very solid career.
Ricardo Clark. To Barrett. It's the only blemish on Houston's season last year, Alan, was the fact they didn't actually win the regular season title.
She just got them in the end for the Western Conference title. In fact, it was the last regular season game for both clubs. Winner take all. Chivas won that game, won the Western Conference, continuing their miraculous ascension in MLS. But Houston walked away with all the wares when it was all said and done.
This is Holden. Davis getting the return pass. Use that left foot of his to
Nearly got through.
Squeeze and wriggle his way through the defenders. Well, is there anyone out there who can challenge Houston's dominance in the Western Conference this season in your eyes, Al?
I tell you what, I think they are going to be the team to set the pace. FC Dallas has gotten off to a fast start the last couple of years. I expect the Galaxy to get off to a stronger start, seeing the way they struggled. But this team just goes about their business in such a way that they ride through the ups and downs. They never get too high, never get too low. And we've heard this old cliche before, but the MLS season really is a marathon. And they get off to a good pace. They don't overrun themselves. They play their best at the end. The ball by Clark to Barrett. I think they are the champs until someone says otherwise.
What do you expect from the new version of San Jose?
They're not going to be the expansion team we saw Chivas and Salt Lake the first couple of seasons they had a couple of years ago. I think they're going to hit the ground running, to be honest with you. The expansion draft, you could tell that Frank Yallop was getting guys that could play straight away. They're going to be a tough team to beat. They may not win a lot of games, but they're going to be a team that makes it very, very difficult on the opposition. But everyone starts with the same record, so we shall see.
This is good play from Holden. Just delayed his final decision. Now Terry McFlynn to get the tackle in.
But maybe no team, as we look at the entire league, improved themselves more potentially than DC United, who were Supporters Shield winners again, but they made a bevy of changes. Played by Holden, and you know, I expect them to again set the pace in the East and Houston in the West.
Brendan Renault has turned into Sydney's main attacking weapon, and it's bad feet for a left back. Meanwhile, there'll be another change for the Australians. It's going to come up front. Santalab is heading for the bench, and it's Brazilian Patrick who's going to join him. A good story about Patrick. He sent a DVD of himself playing to Sydney after Juninho signed for them, and one of a whole host of Brazilians that did that, but they liked the look of what was on that tape, and a year later signed for the club.
22 years of age.
Well, that was a downward header.
Played all over in Brazil. Patrick, his last club, or his first club was Sao Paulo, but played for Vitória. Even short stint in Mexico. And we talked about the Brazilians making their way to the J League. They also find themselves in Australia as well. And we've seen them in Turkey and all over Eastern Europe. Here in the U.S., probably no country exports talent like the Brazilians. Patrick wins that 50-50 duel.
Jacob Timpano is on as well for Sydney now, the centre-back who wears number 17.
That's all of their substitutions. So they got everyone in. Well, only Jeff Cameron and Brad Davis have checked in for the two-time defending MLS Cup champions.
Trying to feed Cameron, who's still looking to get involved.
So look at that, she raced right back to win it.
Mulrooney helping it on to Holden. Touch from Wondolowski, but Timpano was there. Working his way back from injury, Timpano didn't play a game last year and only 2 the year before that. This is an important tournament for him in terms of his rehabilitation.
You always want to leave a good impression in the coach's mind when you're a fringe player. And matches like this, where you don't always get an opportunity to play as a regular. Sometimes during the season, you don't even get a chance to train once the season gets going to really improve yourself and your standing in the team. So sometimes the preseason really does set the mark for your play the rest of the way.
The blue-shirted Sydney FC against the orange-shirted Houston Dynamo as we enter the final quarter of an hour of this second semi-final. First ever Pan-Pacific Championship. Tournament involving 4 teams and 3 different leagues.
I know, at least from a sponsorship point of view, some Soccer United marketing and MLS very happy with what they're able to do in just a short couple of months, getting about in total low 7 figures in sponsorship revenue for these 4 games, which isn't bad at all.
I'll tell you, the way these semi-finals have worked out, Alan, I think we're in for a very entertaining Saturday night.
I think you're right.
We've got Houston, the defending champions, against Gamba Osaka. We saw Barre, and he will be a handful for the Houston defense.
Much different lineup that Houston faced, not only because of different teams, but saw how technical Gamba can be. See how disciplined they are in terms of their positioning and their roles, and it'll be interesting to see one solid team going up against another. Although Gamba are short-handed, 7 fewer players, impact players, first-choice players in their roster than Houston.
The other game, of course, will be a rematch of Sydney and the Galaxy. So will the fireworks spill over from back in November? 8-goal thriller they put on. And
well, Gross certainly should be on the minds of the Galaxy players because he scored twice in their 5-3 defeat. Skills by Holden, getting very confident. Each touch, he's improving.
Holden pulling it down again.
I will say, if you're going to taste defeat, waking up tomorrow on the island should help.
Cures most hangovers.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Will be the bitter taste of defeat again for Sydney. He lost out in the minor semi-final in their Australian A-League playoffs. And, that can sign them to playing in this tournament rather than the grand final. Looks as though they're heading for a third-place encounter. The LA Galaxy on Saturday night, while Houston and Gamba will do battle. We'll see both of those games with us right here on ESPN Classic or ESPN 360.
Quality play much higher than I thought for games in February. For teams that are not in season form.
A low drive, which had Onstad fields. It was probably wide of the post, but no chances taken. It's Patrick to make a mark.
It's pretty even. 23 total. Houston the slight edge compared to the first game where it was all Gamba. For a long time, it was 13 shots to 1 in favor of Gamba. Galaxy closed that stagger with strong final 15 minutes, but disparity clearly favored the Japanese time.
Corey Ash continuing to worry and harry the Sydney back line with his quickness and trickery. Barrett getting things restarted. Ash against Mark Robertson.
Worked by Ash.
Seemed to have nowhere to go. working as a unit, though, to cycle the ball through the midfield.
And the other team in the West that we talked about briefly is the defending Western Conference champion Chivas USA, who bit of a coup keeping Brad Guzan away from Celtic and Aston Villa. They have one of the best young playmakers in Sasha Kljestan. I think the key for them will be, can they stay healthy up top? Because once Razov and Galindo got hurt, they really didn't have much behind them. Not that many teams do, but they're going to be effective. They're going to need those guys to pick up where they left off a year ago. Preki showed he can coach. Coach of the year a year ago.
Well, this has been a well-coached unit we've watched here tonight. Yep. Houston Dynamo.
Very business-like, professional approach. Set the tone early, fast start. Put Sydney on their heels. Exploded for 3 goals in the final 13 minutes of the first half. 2 of them coming a minute apart.
Sydney looking for some small crumb of comfort to take from this game. It's been precious little for them.
Something to smile on the bus about.
How many teams have come away empty-handed against this Houston Dynamo defense in the last couple of seasons? Quite a few, I'd suggest. This is Biddle. Ricochet inside the area. It's set up nicely, but even then, Ricardo Clark was determined that Pat Arnstad wouldn't have to make the save.
That's right, and Patrick's come in and had a couple of good moments. And physical, knocked down a couple of balls. Pat Arnstad in that very calm voice, communicating. Not barking, not yelling, but communicating.
Terry McFlynn very carefully placing the ball for the corner and placing it right into the hands of Pat Arnstad.
I just heard his name. I knew he was from Ireland or Northern Ireland.
You think, McFlynn? It's another player who arrived in Australia after a pretty circuitous route. 4 years with QPR, 4 years playing non-league football.
That is circuitous.
The British Isles. Finally, we're going to see some further changes employed by Donovic.
I think Steve Morrow is Northern Ireland as well. FC Dallas head coach, former Arsenal man.
Finally, a rest for Stuart Holden, who's been tireless up and down.
Yeah, he's showing that he is improved even from November 18th. Ricardo Clark. The one good thing about his suspension is it allowed him to get ankle surgery. It allowed him to rehab and really spend this offseason getting ready for this season, even though he'll start the first couple of games suspended, as opposed to playing through the regular season and the playoffs and then having the surgery. He'd still be in a rehabilitation part of his comeback, as opposed to where he's at now, where he's fit and playing well for club and country.
Well, is he good enough, Stuart Holden, to make the national team looking forward to the 2010 World Cup?
It'll be interesting because he is a wide player, and I still think we need wide players. We being the U.S., we'll see. But, you know, to be honest with you, and got 18 months here, 19 months. Qualifying's done. World Cup qualifying. You got this year and through November next year. It comes that quick. So last year was really the in-between year where you can get yourself into the pool. But in terms of qualifying, not too many of these coaches, particularly the ones who like their jobs, are going to be experimenting too much.
And the Bobby Convey situation has left it open on the left-hand side as Houston look for further reward. Eric Ostruck has just come on. The Santa Clara products who came in the third round of the Super Draft a year ago. Didn't play last year. He was a permanent fixture in the Houston Dynamo reserve team.
As deep as Houston were a year ago. Didn't make any first-team appearances.
They'll try again from the corner. Struck making his run. Put it away by Timpano.
The first touch by Mulrooney.
Just cushioned it, didn't he? Shot, though, was charged out. There's Dominic Kinnear. Has to be very satisfied with what he's seen.
As competitive a coach you'll find in the league. He had that little skirmish with Preki at the end of the regular season.
When you look at him, he always seems very cool, calm demeanor, and
he'll fight you tooth and nail. Good player, too. Very technical player for San Jose. Even spent some time in Mexico, where you know you have to be better than average technically. Those early San Jose Clash teams. There's an assistant with the Earthquakes in their run with Frank Yallop, and allowed him to ascend once Yallop left to coach Canadian national team. Into the role of head coach for San Jose. Of course, they moved to Houston. And fast forward to 08, Yallop is back in Northern California, as is the Earthquakes. And Dominic Kinnear has got 2 Mills Cup championships in his pocket in Houston. A place he never thought he'd live with his family.
Did Brad Davis, probably. He was doing the rounds with New York and Dallas. San Jose, his cross, though. Charged down on his way now, Patrick. Bobby Boswell.
He's had a solid game, Boswell. He's got a chip on his shoulder to prove that he's still one of the best defenders in this league. 2 years ago, he was MLS Defender of the Year. Found Tommy Sohn's doghouse and could not get out of it a year ago. And got to the point where they converted Matt Birch, a attacking player, into the defense. Kind of took Boswell out of the mix.
Houston trading Zach Wells to get him.
It actually worked out really well because Zach Wells, good young goalkeeper's ready for his opportunity to be #1, and Boswell clearly knows that and feels that he's still a first choice defender in this league. So I think both teams got what they wanted. Troy Perkins moving abroad, so Zach Wells will be the #1 as opposed to riding the bench behind Onstad.
Houston signed a veteran goalkeeper to back up Onstad. Sounds strange to say, doesn't it? A veteran backing up a 40-year-old, but
how old is it? Peter Shilton?
It's a comparative youngster. He's only 33. Tony Cage.
Yeah, you have to find someone who's older than you to be the veteran. So.
Nudging into the final minute here, this second semi-final. Houston sitting very comfortably here. It'll be merely a consolation if Sydney can create something right at the end to take away with them. Had much more of the ball in the second half.
They have. I don't think it's necessarily because Houston have really sat back. I think they've found a bit more rhythm.
Going to have potentially a corner to work with.
Orlowski made the safe play right there. When in doubt, whack it out. Flag was up just in case.
Dominic Kinnear making that change to bring in Boswell, so bolstering what was already the league's best defense. And strong just gets stronger. Corner wasn't given. There had been an offside flag raised, so told there again is no official stoppage time added, so that will do it. Very comfortable indeed for the Houston Dynamo, who open up 2008 in fine fashion in this Pan Pacific Championship semi-final. picking up where they left off when we last saw them in November as winners. But this time by a very comfortable margin. Sydney FC really never in the game from the moment Dwayne De Rosario opened the scoring. And you know, those 2 goals inside 2 first-half minutes.
That was
set the tone.
It really did. You got to give Houston a lot of credit for starting fast, dominating the game, getting the goals. And then the rest was just about hard work and defense. They were not able to get that elusive 4th goal, but pretty good start to their season as they are getting into the competitive match phase of their preseason. Stuart Holden argued that he was man of the match. Wondolowski got a goal as well. Of course, Dwayne De Rosario, as he always does, set the pace. And again, I think those 2 goals a minute apart was the difference, and then the Wondolowski goal just confirmed what we already knew. Houston was a better team tonight.
So no goals for Hawaiian native Brian Ching on his return to the islands, but he was instrumental in at least 2 of those goals for Houston. All the goals coming in the latter stages of the first half. No addition to the scoring in the second half, so Houston running out winners here over Sydney FC by 3-0. We'll be back to wrap things up.
World-class soccer is on ESPN. MLS Primetime Thursday, U.S. Men's National Team, UEFA Champions League, Euro 2008, and World Cup 2010.
I'll add the Pan-Pacific Championship to the list of competitions see on ESPN. The first ever night of this new competition, Alan, and we've just witnessed the second semi-final. Houston upending Sydney by 3-0. Adrian Healy with Alan Hopkins alongside. And let's check back on the first game of the evening, Alan, which was LA against Gamba Osaka. And a nasty beginning for David Beckham and the Galaxy in this game.
It was a slow start, and they paid the price. Great ball in behind, a flat Galaxy defense. And Bade, second leading goal scorer in the J-League a year ago, opens his account in this competition. Second half, David Beckham was going about with a stroll in the park, and then Lucas gets under his skin. In fact, Beckham played very well after this point. The Brazilian not backing down eye to eye. Case in point, Beckham working on both sides of the ball, delivers a good cross. Should at least been a strike on goal, but this is how the Galaxy were in front of goal all night long. A lot of effort, but nothing to show for it. McDonald was the one who hits the shot well wide as Allen swung and missed. But give the J-League Cup holders a lot of credit. They started fast, hung on there for an impressive 1-0 win, and I think everyone happy they got to see number 23, David Beckham, play.
Yes, Beckham played the full 90 minutes, and the Galaxy unable to come back. They played a lot better in the second half, as you said, Alan. Really ramped it up, and things started to get a little bit touchy at times.
They did, and I think Ruud can take that and move it forward into Saturday's third-place game, because they certainly played better in the second half, but they have quite a bit of work to do, particularly in front of goal, if they're going to be a dangerous team. And more than anything, got to surround David Beckham around some players he feels like can help him, because a couple of times he had that frustrated look. That'll be something that you have to keep an eye on, is if he can stay with these young guys, because he's got to play and lead at the same time.
Well, now let's recap what we've just witnessed, the second semi-final of the evening under this full moon in Hawaii. And it was the werewolves at the door for Sydney FC, wasn't it? And Dwayne De Rosario was the man who unlocked them first.
We mentioned the lunar eclipse, and you said it earlier. Sydney eclipsed tonight by the defending MLS Cup champions. We saw De Rosario hit the bar going on his left foot. This time he scores off his right. Ching involved again. De Rosario to Holden. He beats Bolton at the near post. Both goals a minute apart. There's a lot of hula dancing at Aloha Stadium, fittingly enough. And then Ching, this is a great pass to Wondolowski. And everything going Houston's way. I think the Dynamo of Brian Ching's native Hawaiian's favorite team, probably Houston Dynamo, and ice on that right knee, but he was okay as he came off to a nice reception.
Let's take a chance to hear from Hawaiian native Brian Ching. This is what he had to say.
Always been a dream of mine to come back and play in Hawaii, and to actually realize that, and to have out and come out and put a performance on the field like that from our team is special to me. And you know, hopefully we can continue playing well and you know, come away with the trophy.
Overall, your thoughts of the Dynamo preseason? You guys are preparing for your Champions Cup games. How do you see the team?
I think we put in a good performance tonight. I think we can improve a little bit, you know, and I think Gamba Osaka is going to probably prove a little bit tougher challenge for us. So looking forward to that on Saturday, and you know, hopefully we can get a little more people in the stands. But you know, having said that, it was a tremendous reception for myself, and just happy to be able to play in front of my home fans.
And about Gamba, how do you guys prepare for them? Where is there an area you guys have to, you know, focus on?
I think we just got to play the ball a little bit quicker than we did tonight. I think they're going to put a little bit more pressure on us than Sydney did. So it's something we're used to, and something that'll prepare us for the CONCACAF game, and something we're looking forward to. And you know, hopefully we can play like we did tonight and come away with the trophy.
And one last one. You've been honored by the state. You've been paddle surfing. You've been on a canoe. Talk a little bit about all the stuff that's surrounding your homecoming.
I couldn't imagine what Beckham goes through because you know, I'm a little overwhelmed with just this week's activities. But you know, I'm having a great time. You know, the guys are too, and you know, we've been walking around with a smile on our face for the whole week. So hopefully that can continue, and we get an even bigger smile when we win the championship.
Thank you.
Well, you can see Brian Ching and the Houston Dynamo on Saturday nights. It's the final. It'll be Gamba Osaka against Houston. That really promises to be something special. Sunday, 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on ESPN Classic. They will play for the Pan Pacific Championship. I hope you can join us for that one. Myself and Alan Hopkins will have the game for you. That just about does it for us tonight. Once again, our final score in this second semi-final was 3-0 to the Houston Dynamo. Coming up Sunday, it'll be the final. Coming up next, it's Alice. You've got to love this game. For Alan Hopkins, I'm Adrian Healy. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.